Most entrepreneurs believe their biggest problem is marketing, sales, or finding the right strategy. And I get it. Those are the things you can measure, the things you can blame, the things that feel like they're outside of you. But what I've seen across countless of entrepreneurs running 6 and 7 figure businesses is that two entrepreneurs can face the exact same situation. So the same market, the same pressure, the same opportunity, and create completely different outcomes. And it is not that one had better tactics, but instead it is that their brains process the same information differently. One sees a threat where the other sees a data point. One spirals where the other adjusts and moves forward. One stalls for 3 weeks while the other makes the call tomorrow. The difference between those two entrepreneurs is a skill that's learnable. It's called running your brain instead of letting your brain run you. And in this video, I'm going to show you the 3-part system for doing exactly that. But before we get into the framework, let me explain the core idea I'm going to explain in this video. Your brain does not process reality. It processes a filtered version of reality. Every second, your nervous system is absorbing somewhere in the range of 11 million bits of information. Your conscious mind handles maybe 50 bits per second. So the brain makes a decision constantly and automatically about what to pay attention to, what to filter out, and what to assign meaning to. And trust me when I say this, that decision process is not random. Instead, it follows the patterns it already has on file, the identity it's been running, the questions it continuously asks, the threats it's been trained to notice, which means the quality of your decisions, your confidence, your execution, none of that starts with information. It starts with how your brain is filtering information before it ever reaches your conscious awareness. The entrepreneurs who seem to move with unusual certainty and clarity do not have better information than you. They have a better mental operating system, and that system has 3 components. We're going to break down each one, and I'll give you the practical questions or exercises that activates each component so that you can start to use this today. Let me make this very concrete with a situation you'll probably recognize. So, you post a piece of content, it gets about 300 views. Entrepreneur A focuses on only 300 views. The meaning that generates is no one cares about my content. The emotion that creates is frustration and doubt. The action that follows is posting less or stopping. Entrepreneur B focuses on 300 people watch this. The meaning that generates interesting. What would get this to 3,000 views? The emotion that creates curiosity. The action that follows making the next reel, the next piece of content. Same reality, completely different internal experiences, different decision, different trajectory. And what's important to understand is that entrepreneur A is not weaker or more negative as a person. Their brain is just running a different operating system. It's asking different questions, filtering for different data, and assigning different meaning to the same input. The output is downstream of the process. If you want to change the output, your confidence, momentum, or your ability to make great decisions, you have to change the process. So now let me cover the 3 steps in exact detail. So, step number 1 is focus, specifically what you're training your brain to look for. There is a structure in your brain called the reticular activating system, short for RAS. Its job is to act as a filter, deciding out of a million bits of data hitting you every second what gets flagged as important and what gets discarded as noise. The key thing about the RAS decides what's important is that it uses whatever you've been paying attention to as the reference point. If you've been focused on the obstacles, the clients you don't have yet, the revenue you're not at yet, the competitors who seem to be doing better, your RAS flags more of that. This is pattern recognition. The brain finds what it's been told to look for by yourself. Flip that input, and the filter will flip as well. So focus on opportunities, solutions, and evidence that your approach is working. And your ROS starts surfacing more of that and showing you more of that in your reality. You're not changing reality, you're only changing the filter. I see this constantly with entrepreneurs who are objectively doing well and can't see it. They're running a 400K a year business and still scanning for everything that could go wrong because that's the attentional habit that got them from zero to where they are now. The same vigilance that built the business is now capping them and the business because the brain keeps confirming there's something to be worried about. The, the fix here is deliberate attention training, directional questions that force your RAS to scan the right direction. So, these three questions are worth asking every morning to calibrate what your brain spends the next 12 hours, 14 hours looking for, however long you are awake. So the first one is, what opportunities exist in my business right now that I haven't acted on yet? Number two is, what's already working, even at a small scale, that I could amplify? And the last one, who in my network is positioned to help me with the problem I'm currently trying to solve? These questions are search commands for the RAS system. You're giving your RAS a new filter before the day starts. The difference between an entrepreneur who constantly feels behind and one who constantly sees clear next moves is rarely the actual state of the business. It's the habitual direction of your focus. The brain finds what it looks for. Your only job in this step is to be deliberate about what you ask it to look for. So, one practical tool I use with clients: end every work session with a single question. What's the high leverage thing I haven't paid enough attention to today? It keeps the ROS calibrated on what moves the needle rather than drifting back to whatever feels most urgent. The entrepreneur who controls their focus doesn't have fewer problems. They have a brain that surfaces solutions with the same efficiency most brains surface threats. So that's step one. Step two is meaning. This is where the real leverage is and where most entrepreneurs have no idea they're operating on autopilot. Events don't have inherent meaning. The lost client, the bad month, the launch that underperformed, none of those things come with a built in interpretation. The meaning is something your brain assigns automatically in milliseconds based on the identity framework it's been running previously. And the meaning drives everything downstream. So the meaning determines the emotion determines the decision determines what happens next. So if the meaning is wrong, everything downstream of it is wrong, regardless of how good your strategy is. The most common meaning assignments I see in six-figure entrepreneurs that are actively keeping them stuck is: first one, for example, a client left means my offer isn't good enough, or I had a bad week means I'm losing momentum, or I didn't get the results I expected means I'm doing something wrong. None of those interpretations are facts, they're stories, and a different story, one equally supported by the same facts, would produce a completely different decision. So, for example, a client left could mean I now have capacity for a better fit client, or a bad week could mean I'm in the adjustment phase and not a decline, or it could be an unexpected result, could mean there's data that I don't have yet. You're not forcing positivity, but instead recognizing that the interpretation you default to is not the only one available, and that the interpretation you choose determines the action you take. So the question that breaks the automatic meaning loop is simple: what else could this mean? Don't ask, how can I feel better about this? Because that's just avoidance. The question to ask is, given what I know, what are the other valid interpretations of this situation? Because if you are automatically defaulting to interpretation that generates the most doubt and the most hesitation, and most entrepreneurs do, because that's the same vigilance mechanism that kept them from making reckless decisions on the way up, you're making your next move based on a story and not a fact. So here's a reframe I use with clients that changes this fast. So take the last setback or stall in your business. Write down the automatic meaning your brain assigned to it, so the immediate story. Then answer two questions. The first one is that interpretation a fact or an assumption? And number two, what would an entrepreneur with twice the experience I have interpret this as? That second question is particularly powerful because it separates your current experience level from the interpretation, which is something most entrepreneurs don't separate. They assume that the way it feels is the way it is. Understand that you are not your interpretation of events, but you are the one interpreting them. The moment you establish that gap between what happened and what you decided it means, you have the ability to choose differently. Language is the mechanism here, and use this exact framing. The words you use to describe a situation shape the emotional experience you have of it. So, for example, my business is struggling, generates a fundamentally different internal state than I'm in a phase that requires recalibration. The facts are identical, the operating state is not. So, choose your language with the same deliberateness you choose your strategy. That's step number two. So step number three is questions. And this one ties steps one and steps two together into something that becomes automatic. Your brain is a question answering machine. It will always, without exception, attempt to generate an answer to whatever question you put in front of it. The question doesn't have to be conscious. The question you ask continuously, the ones running in the background, while you're working, are shaping your focus and generating meanings in real time. Which means the most important thing you can do for your mental performance is audit the questions you're already running and replace the ones that are producing bad outputs. The default questions of most six-figure entrepreneurs looks like this. Why is this not working? Why can't I seem to break through this plateau? What if I'm wrong about this? Why do other people seem to figure this out faster than me? Your brain will answer all of those thoroughly and with evidence because it finds what it looks for. But those questions don't produce any useful outputs. They only produce ruminative loops. So they also keep focus pointed at the problem, generate meanings that confirm something is wrong, and produce an emotional state where clear decision making becomes hard. Compare those two questions to the questions a twice as successful entrepreneur runs continuously. They usually ask, what's the lesson in this result? What's the most important move I can make in the next 24 hours? What would the version of me who has already solved this do right now? And lastly, where is the opportunity in this constraint? Again, same situation, completely different outputs because questions are steering the mechanism. The point they also point the RAS, they shape the meaning assignment and they generate the emotional state you make decisions from. This will be the most, what I'm about to say now, practical intervention you can make immediately. Write down the 5 questions you most habitually and continuously ask when things get hard. Then rewrite them so they point towards solutions, lessons, and next moves rather than confirmation of the problem. The upgraded versions don't have to feel natural at first. The old questions feel natural because they've had repetitions. So from this point forward, give it give the new ones, give the new interpretations, the new questions repetition. A daily audit worth running is before you sit down to work, ask yourself, what question am I going to give my brain today as a filter? Because whether you answer that consciously or not, the brain is already running with something. You're just deciding whether that something is deliberate or default. Questions control focus. Focus drives meaning. Meaning determines emotion. Emotion shapes the decision. The decision produces the result. Change the question at the top of that chain and you change everything downstream of it. So that's step three. And here is the full system as I just went to the slide. Step number one, control your focus. Give your ROS a deliberate filter before your day starts and recalibrate it throughout the day with directional questions. Step number two, control the meaning. Every time your brain auto assigns an interpretation to an event, pause and ask what else it could mean. Choose the interpretation that produces the best operating state for your next decision. Step three, control your questions. Audit the questions you run over and over again. Replace the ruminative ones with directional ones and give the new questions the repetition they need to become automatic. Most entrepreneurs spend years learning marketing, sales, or business strategy. And of course, those skills matter. But if you can manage the machine running all of them, the brain that's filtering your reality, assigning meaning to your results, and generating the questions you make decisions from, none of those skills will perform at their ceiling. The quality of your business will never consistently exceed the quality of your psychology. It will. I said it will not, but it will. Master your focus, master the meaning you give events, master the questions you ask. That's the mental operating system of entrepreneurs who keep winning and scale their businesses. So, if you want to go a layer deeper than this into the subconscious level, where these patterns are actually stored and running, where the automatic focus, the automatic meanings, and the automatic questions get installed, you can download the 7-figure subconscious roadmap in the first link in the description. It is 4 free hypnosis recordings, each targeting a different layer of the identity ceiling that limits most entrepreneurs at 20 to 40K a month from going to 100K a month. So click the first link in the description and download the subconscious roadmap for free. I'm looking forward to hearing about your upcoming and future success.